Hi, this is Cameron Watts. I'm the minister at Fairlawn Avenue United Church, and we are studying in Advent for 3 weeks John Shea's book, Starlight, Beholding the Christmas Miracle All Year Long. I'm going to give you a quick overview through his preface and talk to you about the appeal the book has for me, and then we're going to talk about his first chapter. So to begin with, he talks about being a camp counselor as a young man, and how when he was on a canoe trip with a bunch of the kids he was responsible for, a cloud cover came over and they could not see a thing. They could not see the hands in front of their faces. It was that dark. And they started to get really anxious about being stuck in the darkness. They started to get antsy. They started to shift around. He had to tell them not to move too close to the water, and he just kept talking to them to keep them calm, although he was feeling a little unnerved by the experience as well. Fortunately, the cloud cover broke, and although it was a new moon and there was no light from the moon, the ambient light from the stars was enough to reassure them. I loved his opening for this because as a camp director, I used to every year take the entire camp that I was looking after down to the canoe and the swimming docks with their sleeping bags at night and have them camp out on the dock, again, careful not to roll into the water, so that they could watch the Perseid meteor shower. It was amazing just to be able to lie out and watch the stars fall from the heavens and feel small and important at the same time. And of course, there had to be theme music, so I usually played Blue Rodeo's Lost Forever, which begins, "Strange and beautiful are the stars tonight." One of my best moments at camp. That's one of the reasons he had me hooked right at the beginning. And then he started talking about why starlight is important to us. He says it's because darkness connotes 3 things to us. First of all, it connotes evil. Darkness has power, and it has power over us. And he talks about how the revelation of Christ lights a way out of the darkness, including the hardness and cruelty of our own hearts. The darkness will not overcome us. So darkness connotes evil, and light helps us find a way away from that evil. He also says the darkness is neutral. Darkness is the far border where sight fails. The opaque fringe of consciousness, he calls it. Candles, he says, do not expunge darkness, but they do carve out a circle of brightness, as do stars. And he says darkness is an essential part of starlight. You don't see the stars unless it's dark. They're there during the day, and my star map will tell me they're there, but I can't see them. I need darkness in order to see the light. Divine revelation includes divine concealment. And human perception includes human blindness. So he says that the light shining in the darkness is a realistic assessment of our earthbound capacities and our ability to grow and learn. And so Christmas encourages us to behold ourselves as much as we can with as much light as we have and see the earth and see the presence of the divine until we are more real. Finally, he says, darkness means something entirely different to the mystic. Darkness is the positive preparation for the advent of light. Light does not push back the darkness. Darkness is the previous spiritual state that produces light. And so night becomes about where we get closer to the light, but first we have to disengage from distractions so we can see when the light appears. Many of you will have had the experience of doing your best thinking in the quiet, in the dark. I'm not talking about your mind's racing because you're trying to get everything figured out, but simply that you have this moment of less distraction so you can see or begin to see or be ready to see. Shepherds in the Christmas story were watching over their flocks when? By night. They were vigilant at night. They were awake at night in the darkness. So he says for the mystic, darkness is a self-imposed strategy. We learn to starve our senses so the inner world can emerge without competition. We stop the noise. We stop the things that make us look around and grab our attention. We sit and we start to look at ourselves inside. And then we begin a process of enlightenment, of understanding ourselves. Lame Deer, the Sioux shaman, said, "What you see with your eyes shut is what counts." So why don't you take a moment now and think about a time in your life when you waited in darkness and you began to see. Okay, chapter 1. He talks about the soul. The reality of the soul for him involves a double consciousness. It's seeing the divine, God, and the world at the same time, keeping an eye on both. The word soul reminds us that we are border walkers. We live on the boundary of the spiritual and the physical. We talk about in this world thin places where it just doesn't seem so far between our earthly existence and this transcendent existence that we sense exists. He also talks about light coming from other sources for our soul. And he talks about the things that aren't from our Christian tradition that have helped us understand our Christian tradition better. He talks about the things that influenced him, and I asked our two groups what helped them see our Christian tradition or their own spirituality from a different perspective that wasn't overtly Christian. So they talked about the book Braiding Sweetgrass. Another talked about any book about the sea. The book Kingdom Secrets by Tomi Arayomi. Anything by Joyce Rupp. Anything by Chaim Potok. The book The Last English Garden. You pick. What's something that you've read that has helped you understand, if not your own Christian tradition, your own spirituality, that's brought you a sense of enlightenment that came from outside your early experience? So a few more questions for you, just because he talks about gifts and the importance of gifts and how we see them and how gifts given and gifts received shape our soul. He quotes T.S. Eliot that the incarnation, which, by the way, is a word that we use to describe the coming of the Christ to be in our midst. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We talk about Jesus as an example of the divine presence with us in our midst in this world. That's what incarnation is. And by the way, we talk about our own incarnation too, and how the way we live can help others see the divine, see the Christ. We are people who incarnate that reality as well. Eliot says that the incarnation is a gift half understood. It is a gift too deep for the shallow mind to understand. The counterpoint to that is we actually understand gifts, and we can begin to understand what it means for the divine to be in our midst as a gift when we find the joy in giving and receiving gifts ourselves. So I asked people about what was a gift that they had received that was of particular importance to them, or a gift that they had given. One of them talked about giving an unaffordable doll to a young girl. The community of people around here scraped the money together and bought the doll for her for Christmas. Another person talked about someone who did not have too much, but put together a fruit basket for them and gave it to them. A necklace, very simple necklace that somebody knew embodied something important for that person. Someone whose spouse was very far away and who had their car and they needed them, and they got on a bus and rode 6 hours and got dropped at the side of the road to spend some time with them. That was a gift. So then I asked people, is it better to give or receive? And of course, we got all the usual answers. And because most of the people in the group are a little bit older, they love giving gifts. They love giving things to their children and their grandchildren and their friends. They love the creativity and the imagination they can put into gift giving. And I said that I am learning how to receive gifts. I'm in that same category. I love giving things, and I really don't care what you give me, but sometimes it is a grace that we learn to receive gifts from other people, to say, you know what? I'm not going to be self-deprecating in this moment. I'm not going to say I don't deserve it. I'm just going to be grateful for it. And if you want an example of that from the Bible, a woman broke a jar of perfume and poured it over Jesus. And it scandalized a lot of people, and he should have had her sell the valuable perfume and given the money to the poor. And he accepted it as the gift it was. It's something I need to learn. Finally, Shea talks about how churches are the repositories of the spiritual treasures of the past, and now may be the time to bring them out and feed the hungry. That in the light of what we see, whether it's dim or whether it emerges from our own desire to end darkness for other people, or it emerges from our own quiet reflection in the dark that leads us out into the light, we have gifts to offer to this world. So he asks, how do we use the feast of Christmas to feed the hungry? The hungry, the physically hungry, and the hungry of soul. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with another one next week. I hope that you will like this video, that you'll keep following us on YouTube, maybe even subscribe. I'm Cameron Watts. I'm the minister at Fairlawn Avenue United Church. And please, in this really, really busy season, be good to you.